wedding dress, witness,
For the free.
Barb and Emily, grandma, and
I still don't know.
Best friend.
Nice.
that's, we went down to pick up the best friend.
That's what you said, that you were going to pick up best friend.
Do we think Erin might be joining via Zoom? We don't know.
I'm not sure,
And
she,
does she know how? Do we have,
yeah, she left the parking lot
Okay, but you forwarded her okay,
about 10 minutes ago, and she said,
yeah,
that once she gets home,
she'll ascertain.
she'll figure out what's.
So, just for public consumption, our small public here and those online, we have two board members who took very seriously ill just in the last hour. So there are just three of us here present. One or the other two might try to join via Zoom, but with three, we do have a quorum. We don't have any really controversial or substantial agenda topics, so we would proceed. And with that, I'll go ahead and open the meeting for business right at 7 o'clock. We'll start with our pledge of allegiance. Talladega, would you like to?
I would. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, right into the approval of the consent agenda. We have just a couple of employment modifications. All right, and then three packets of meetings, 2 regulars and our work session.
Gonna admit, Erin,
Thanks.
I just did.
Oh, you did, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm re-logging into Board on Track. I was apparently away long enough. Way too long. No. Nope. Sorry, it's all queued up, but then it timed out on me. Okay, so just remind everyone, agenda. Actually, yeah, we had a few we're appointing a few coaches, and then we have 3 sets of minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion.
Okay. I'll second. That's second over here. Any, do we have Erin with us online?
She's online.
Okay, so we're approving the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye. Let me see.
Aye.
Good. Clear. All right, very good. Next, just request for agenda modifications.
I have 2.
Okay,
One of them is, the budget committee appointment
oh,
to put under, 2D. So that'll be, as part of the financial report, and then when we approve the proposed budget calendar, we would also like to approve the new,
board member.
budget committee member.
Do we have any paperwork?
Yes,
Yeah,
you've got it
Oh, it's,
right here.
oh, okay, right behind me. Thank you.
And the second one is to fall under number 4. It's a decision, about a facility use agreement.
4D.
Okay.
Great, okay. You, are there modifications from the board?
My only question is regarding the email that we received today about a modification. For discussion about our inclement weather issue.
I don't think there was a,
I didn't see,
You did not receive that?
no. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit
We'll just talk about it.
in my report, and we can deal with it then,
okay,
so.
with us from a constituent?
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought it was just all.
maybe not, okay. I mean, I haven't checked emails since. Yeah, mine was midday and I didn't see it, so. Yeah, okay, anyway, you can bring it up during Susan's other modifications. Erin, anything? Erin, good, just your thing?
No, other Aaron brought up the thing I was actually going to raise about the inclement weather policy, so that's perfect.
You're turning that down, I assume.
I hope.
Yeah, okay, you're blasting us
That's
out of the
the goal.
room, Erin, but that's not your fault, for turning down our volume. Okay, so I think we're moving on to reports, student government. We need to discuss,
I did talk to, about having someone here, and
any member of ASB.
Yep.
would be great.
Yep.
Okay, so you will follow.
I will follow up again.
I
Okay.
have to follow up.
And same thing with,
All right.
there's nobody here representing either association.
Yeah, and that's up to them. If they want to provide that, I'm less concerned about.
Yep.
It's more about the students, I think. There's a
I
good
agree.
opportunity for them.
I agree.
All right, well, that takes us right to your report. Okay, Madam Superintendent.
I'm going to try to share something. Let me go back to my other one here. First of all, I wanted to be able to put up here. Getting rid of that. It is School Board Appreciation Month in January.
Is that what these?
That's why, you have gifts on your table. And the recognition of all of our school board members for everything that you do every day. And, that's all right. And staying on top of things and, just greatly appreciated and wanted to make sure that we could acknowledge that appropriately and thank the board very, very much for everything.
Thank you.
Then I'm gonna go to the report. And again, I started out, I thought the pictures would be better, just to be able to say thank you. Because it is an important role and an important job, and I think we've done a lot of great things to be able to get us through as a school board, so it's a great appreciation. A couple of things that, and I'll put weather at the end because I know that's gonna be the discussion point. A couple of things I didn't put in my report that I wanted to highlight. If you have not seen the Philomath Middle School gym floor since it has been done. It was completed over winter break. You may know that the fundraising took place to be able to take care of that project. It looks amazing. It is absolutely phenomenal if you get a chance to get over and take a look at it. One of the things that I didn't put on the calendar is the Sunday before the Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. Senator Merkley will be in town for a town hall on that Sunday, and I'll make sure I send out the information to the board. And I'll also be sending it to some strategic staff here at the high school and a couple of other places. Just to see if there's any students that may have an interest in being able to come to a town hall.
That would take place at the high school.
Student?
At the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I just got word of back today, before the winter break, we signed an agreement with a group called Endago Internships Abroad, and it's out of Forest Grove. And what it is instead of sending foreign exchange students for a year, this entity sends groups for anywhere from a week to 4 weeks to different places for just a brief visit. And so we will be fortunate enough to have 2 students from Spain starting January 17th through February 15th. So they'll be here for 4 weeks. The students are from the same school, so they will know each other. And we have host families already selected for them. We're making sure that if they need transportation, they will get transportation. They're more like guests, so they will be following other students to be able to just kind of see how things operate here. And so it's our first endeavor, and we're just gonna try it out and be able to see what it's like to be able to get students here. And then we'll look at what are the opportunities potentially for students another way, what would be a cost factor, all those kinds of things, to be able to make this work. So we weren't sure when we went into winter break if we would have host families or not, but we got host families for 2, so it's really good.
Is this a one-way program?
Well, that's what we're gonna find out. We're doing the take right now because they were looking for people. And because they were coming from Spain, imagine that our Spanish teacher here had a very vested interest in being able to get students here from Spain. So we'll get a chance to follow up with them again once this is done. We know that Corvallis and Lebanon are 2 districts who have used them before. So it'll give us an opportunity to reach out to those 2 districts also and be able to see what their experience has been. So, and it's nice that it's not necessarily the commitment of a full year, to be able to get some kind of an experience. So we're newbies into it, but it'll be exciting. Yeah. The academic calendar committee, we're pulling that group back together. We started just this past year to be able to make sure that we always had 2 years of school district calendars on the books so that we could always stay ahead of it. And so we're getting the committee together to make a determination about the 27-28 school year, and we'll have that February or March to be able to come forward for approval.
And is the 26-7 already approved?
Yeah, it's already done. And so, and that's the idea, is because we have 26-27, we approved 27-28. Next year we'll approve 28-29. So the idea is always to have those 2 years.
And is it on the website?
Yes.
I assume? Okay.
Yep.
Well, this year and next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at calendar, if you look for calendars, it will give you the option of either one. Yeah. And it's just nice to be able to have graduation dates, winter break dates,
So it's,
things like that. So I finally got to a place where I hoped we would be. I wanted to put in information about Senate Bill 141, the Education Accountability Act, that we've talked a little bit about. And we've talked about the common metrics that the state is going to ask that we all measure. And that's regular attenders, K-12, 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, 9th grade students on track to graduate, 4-year graduation rates, 5-year high school completion rates, and then there will be a local metric that the state board are to approve this month, 5 options of what that local metric could be. And each district has to select one. And so, once we know what those are, then we'll be able to make a selection of what it is we're gonna look at. And so those are things that we will have to measure, for the state. When they figured, now what they have to look at is the metrics for, what each group needs to have responsibility for. Because they'll set metrics for the next series of years. And they want districts to set metrics together and to also have, opportunities to be able to have conversation with one another. And so when they figured out the metrics, or the groups for metrics, we had opportunities to know those and to appeal. And they broke them down by a series of algorithms. And we ended up assigned to group 2, cluster 1. And the interesting part about group 2 is it puts us into a small suburb. It doesn't put us into rural. And so there were a couple of reasons to be able to take a look at that. The biggest thing that they started with was what were the designations of NCES, the National Center for Education Statistics. What was their designation of a district? And that kind of drove everything from there. Then district size and demographics, that we talked about, because if we're, the group 2 cluster 1 has districts like Corvallis, Lake Oswego, Riverdale, Oregon City. Districts that are, multi-high school, multi-middle school. And so to be able to try and have commonality and conversation with some of those is real difficult because we've got one school. They've got more. The other part of it is some of these districts, specifically like a Lake Oswego and a Riverdale, if we need to put something in place to be able to advance a particular agenda, there are some of those districts that have a little bit more community financial power to be able to turn some things and make them happen. And so that's another piece of the puzzle that makes it real difficult. So I put forward an appeal to be able to move to a group that had Junction City. It was like 6 districts in that particular group, and they denied the appeal. And they did that based on the NCES district designation as small suburban and our proximity to Oregon State University were 2 things that took us into that grid. They asked if we had another group we wanted to try to be a part of, and there really were no other groups that were any better fit. And so we just decided to stay with where we were. I did voice my opinion to ODE because I had asked how many of people who submit appeals were approved and how many were denied. And the answer I got was the majority were approved. And I just went on record to say if Philomath is the only one that was denied, I won't be happy. But we're gonna give it a go and do it as we need to and look at our targets in that way. Because the other thing that we can look at is, something like our graduation rates as a district are really pretty darn good. And so we can fit in with some of those bigger districts and be able to, I think, be competitive. So here we go.
And Susan, can I ask a question?
Yep.
about that? So is this a year-to-year grouping, or is this, we're set in a group and it's in perpetuity, or is there?
We're set in a group and it will be at least 4 to 5 years.
Okay,
Now, if we find that there are issues and concerns, I have no problem going back and being able to make a statement again. The reason I didn't put the groupings in here is they get approved in January at the state board also. And so I didn't wanna, because I don't know who else appealed and got approved or denied. So the groups have shifted some since we originally put the information out there.
very interesting.
Yeah, so I have learned a lot.
So can I just clarify? So we were put into really more of a suburb, which you could certainly argue, given Corvallis there is some elements of that.
Yes.
But obviously, I would certainly agree we are more preponderant of rural.
Yep.
lower suburb. You attempted to appeal that, was denied.
Yep.
However, did I also hear you say there's really not necessarily a more obvious, really great other option anyway?
No, I looked through the other groupings of, what the metrics they were looking at in terms of poverty, numbers of English language learners. A school of 100, it's kind of like a school of 150 students or a district of 200 students. Really is in the other direction, not fitting for us to be able to be with.
Right.
And so I felt like we made the best selection we could. The other group that was a possibility, and I think it was in 5. But it had a group of like 30 districts in it. And I don't know if all 30 are still there. So it was the difference between, the group that we wanted to get into was 6 or 7. The group that we are now a part of is a dozen, and this other group was 30. So there's kind of no, I'm sure there's rhyme or reason with the algorithms to be able to get us there. There was another district and us that put forward, that I know put forward appeals for this same grouping, and they were approved and we were not. And so, and I don't know all the pieces of it, so it's just saying we did this and we chose to stay where we were. The other piece of this will be, we've talked about the local interim assessment requirement. So the law says, beginning in 26-27 school year, school districts and charter schools will administer interim assessments 3 times per year, which we do in Philomath, and we have for a long time. And so the state board was to adopt in December, and they moved it to January, the adoption of 4 interim assessments that they would make available for use by districts. We are hopeful that the tests that we currently utilize will be on that list, because there's no additional state funds to purchase other testing materials. The reason they backed off the decision at the state level is there are some districts that are in multi-year contracts with providers to be able to use their testing. And so if their test comes off the list, what do they do? So there's still a lot of conversation, and we're discovering that there's great influence in data collection when we're putting things back out to the state and the state board to be able to make those decisions. So it's just keeping you up to date on the things that we know and the things that we're pushing for and fighting for. OSBA election results. The board of directors position across the region was voted for Clyde Rood.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
On this assessment, if we don't have the right tool, et cetera. We did have a meeting with our 2 legislators, our state senator and our state representative, Gomberg and Cormack, right?
It was Sarah Finger McDonald, and she's Corval.
Sorry, McDonald, yeah, okay.
Corval,
Yeah,
she's not
I
us,
guess she's
but
not,
yeah.
but she's next to Jason over. Anyway, the 2 of them were there. Gomberg is our representative. I said McDonald. And one of the, of course, a huge topic was the budget cuts that are pending. And one of the big pushbacks was, please eliminate all the unfunded mandates, and for God's sakes, don't create new ones. And this was specifically, I think, if I remember, brought this one up of the new accountability assessment. If you tell us we have to go adopt new standards, where's that money coming from? So just know we're pushing back on that in multiple different forms.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. No, perfect.
Actually,
And then the legislative policy committee, which ran unopposed, was Jason Curtis. So I just wanted to make sure that you had the final results of that. Information about our Philomath School District facility access points. Thank you, Trevor. And company have purchased access points for our wireless technology. And as of right now, they're placed everywhere with the exception of Blodgett Elementary, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And the high access points requiring a lift, like the gyms, the libraries, the multipurpose rooms. And when we see that it says that the speeds are reported to be 3 times faster and the number of devices able to connect is about 4 times greater. And so as we're starting to see the hiccups go away and the implementation happen, and once we get the gym taken care of here, and a couple of other high key places, things are gonna be much better. We had some hiccups at the elementary school on Monday that were reported on Tuesday to be better. So it's just a nice way to be able to add to some bandwidth, which has been great. I did put inclement weather in the thing, and I'll come back to that. Inter-district transfer report. Up until this point, we have had no incoming. We've had a second grader, a fifth grader, and a 10th grader opt to go to Corvallis. Our only changes currently are that Philomath High School has closed all grades at this point in time to be able to accept inter-district transfers. And so I'll continue to update in that particular report. Everything else has maintained the same. I put the important dates to remember. If we go back to weather, which I didn't expect it this morning.
Susan, I apologize. Can I ask a question really quick about the inter-district
Yeah.
transfer? I'm just curious if you have been receiving any requests or any inquiries about the 2026-27 school year, particularly coming out of Corvallis. I've had a couple of people reach out to me.
There have been calls that have gone, some of them I'm sure have come to you.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
And then the more of them have been going to the schools
Oh.
of people who have expressed some interest. And so, we are getting those. What we've talked about is being able to open enrollment, like we do for everybody, at the same time we do the kindergarten roundup. And so what we would do is open up the inter-district transfer, opportunity. But we wouldn't make decisions until school's out. Until we kind of see where it is we are, and where we land at the end of our year, but we would accept them. We ran into struggles last year with accepting some, schools had accepted some, assuming that siblings were automatically in. And so now that we've got some of that straightened up, I think we're gonna be okay, but we're gearing up to be ready to be able to open enrollment for everybody for next year, like late March, early April, or mid-March, you know, to be able to make sure that we can get that taken care of. Great question. Inclement weather, and you can ignore what I put in my report that you saw. This morning was an interesting Murphy morning. We had people that went to exercise classes out to Blodgett at 4:30 and 5 o'clock this morning that had absolutely no issue on the roads. By 6:30, that world was a little bit different. I got word at 7 o'clock from Benton County Sheriff of the closure of Highway 20 beyond Woods Creek to the west. I talked to our bus company this morning and we said, we'll just go slow. We know if buses are late, they're gonna be late. And we have some kids that get on the buses or need to be at their bus stops by about 6:25. And so to put out the message that we did at 6:15 is actually later than we would like. The bus company came back to me, I wanna say about 6:15 and said, we need to do a 2-hour delay. Corvallis hadn't done a 2-hour delay. We had people getting around. Somebody had texted me from the Botkin Road area and said there's no snow out here. And so it was kind of the reliance on that. And so I went back to the bus company. I said, what about putting some snow routes for some of these far out areas? And they came back and said, great, 2-hour delay and snow routes. And it was like, whoa. We can't go there. And so by 7 o'clock, when I had heard that the roadway was closed, we immediately turned around and closed down Blodgett. And the bus company pulled the buses back in to say, we're gonna wait and do a 2-hour delay. At that point, I've got kids already coming to school. And so I can't tell the adults, everybody, we're on a 2-hour delay. Because we've got kids coming in the door and nobody there. For safety purposes, it's always about if you've got issues getting in, be safe. Because I talked through text principals to be able to say, if we need to double up classes or do some different kinds of things, because we can't get our adults into school, then we'll do that until the buses can make their run at 10 o'clock and get kids to school safely. On top of that, there are a number of people that have started to have a reliance in a good way on our text feature through the Bright Arrow application. When I went onto Bright Arrow this morning, it asked for multi-factor authentication. The sign-on we use is used by 4 or 5 people in the district office. And so anything I put in the system to try and get the multi-factor authentication to move forward wouldn't, because it's not my email address that's attached to it. And so until we got in later in the morning and got that fixed, now we have that ready to roll into the future so that it doesn't continue to be a problem. But that was a huge hit, and some people who said, but I expected your text and I didn't get it. And so the other thing is Flash Alert used to do texts, they don't, they do emails now only. So we've kind of lost that text feature for the moment. And so all those things combined, and we did have most of our students, with the exception of those out in the Blodgett Kings Valley area, show up on time or got, rode their bus late. We told families, because they were calling in and saying, we want to excuse our student because it's not safe. Great, we're gonna take care of that for you, because we want you to be safe first and foremost. And then the other piece of it is we have a meeting with new bus company director or site manager on Monday to be able to talk about inclement weather and a number of other things. So that's kind of the update of how this morning went. Was it my finest? No.
But in your defense, I talked to a guy that was at the mill at top of Red Hill, and at 6:10, he drove his truck up there to the mill. Perfectly good. He loaded his chips and he looked out the window at 6:30 and the fog rolled in and froze to the ground. So he said at 6:10, drove his truck. He came in from Kings Valley at 5:30, got in his truck, and he said it wasn't until about 6:15 that the top of Red Hill got fog on it.
And that's when my phone and everything just started to blow
But
up and
prior-
everything
yeah.
had to change. So yeah, it was.
Prior to that, it was fine, so there's nothing else that the bus company could have done. I mean, when the fog rolled in on frozen ground, it was.
Yeah, and when she said we're pulling our buses back in, it's kind of like, okay, I understand you're pulling buses back in. And we've got to have adults in schools to be able to see kids, but if adults can't get here safe, they'll come in late. And we'll shuffle and adapt as we need to be able to make things happen. Most of the questions I got were about, what about the text feature? Because I didn't get a text till 8:30. And that was just because the text feature didn't work first thing in the morning. And a couple of others about, we got the first notice at 6:15 and our students have to be at the bus stop at 6:25. That's not long enough. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's not long enough. And anytime we can do that earlier, that's our job. But this one just came up and bit us suddenly. So.
So a couple things at that point, the old phrase, it's darkest before the dawn. I don't know if that's true, but it is literally coldest right before the dawn, right? It only gets colder as the night goes on, so it's not surprised that at 5:30, it's not frozen, but it could at 6 or 6:15, especially if fog rolls in, so I just would keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But so going forward, obviously getting that 2-factor authentication fixed, sounds like you've already addressed
Yeah,
that.
we've done that.
What would we do differently?
And that's one of the reasons we're meeting with the bus company. 2 managers ago, that person would actually get out and drive Blodgett, and I'd get out and drive out the LC direction, and be able to drive around to actually check roads. And there was also at that point, that manager had checked on, I've looked at Trip Check, I've done this, I've done that, and a couple of things there. So we just need to work out who's gonna look at what, to be able to make sure we know. Bless Don Rogers with Benton County Sheriff, who texted me this morning to tell me of what was happening out Highway 20. So that's prompted me to be able to say to the sheriff and to our local police, if you've got officers that know that things are amiss, weather-wise, can you just shoot me a text? So that I know about that. And for me to be able to get out and actually be on the roads, to be able to test them rather than making an assumption. It's kind of like we're back to that place again, and I'm good with that. So I think there's things that we can do on both sides, to be able to make it better.
I think I guess I kind of it's great to do that, but if it was great at if you guys go out and drive the roads at 6 o'clock. The once or twice a year this may happen, that's just Mother Nature. I mean,
Yeah.
because if the people that at 5:30 drove the roads, it was perfectly fine. And then, but it just, fog can roll, when freezing fog rolls in, it just happens. So I don't know that it's.
Yeah,
It's-
sometimes it's just maybe unavoidable, right?
In
But-
days whether you probably could have issued a thing at 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock was fine.
Yeah.
So it's probably nothing that could have been better besides your text message working.
Right, but we wanna be able to, we wanna be able to look at it in terms of, we've got, snow coming up or anything else like that in the course of this year. That we've just got some real clear, this is yours, this is mine, I can do this, you can do that. And really be able to get us in a position. So for instance, one of the things that, I'm getting texts at 4:30 and 5 in the morning when we've got inclement weather issues. Which is a great alarm clock.
Yeah.
And so, if bus company can contact me too at that point in time, it's like, don't feel like you're gonna mess up my day. My day's already messed up, just because it's my job. That's what I have to do. So it's just making sure, because this bus manager is new, we've not met yet. I mean, we've met, but we've not sat together.
Understand.
And so it gives us an opportunity to be able to do the give and take of how do we operate and what do we do. So,
And
Okay.
do we have a sense of what our, the population within our population is that receives the inclement weather? I mean, are we like 100% of the students' families are on either text or flash alert or something like, or email? I know that that's impossible to
Right.
guess, but I'm wondering.
the email goes to everyone. I mean, unless somebody has outright said, do not email
Blocked
me.
you.
But, then it's, do people pick it up and choose to read email?
So we have email, we have flash alert, we have the text.
And the
system.
text feature, and the text, one of the things I put out, that's what I put out at 8:30 was to say, in the text feature of the application we use, you have to opt in.
Mhm.
And
got
if
the
you,
email
yeah,
there.
if you wanna opt in, this is how you do it, because we haven't had very many opt into the text feature, but those people who are opted in.
This is the Arrow application.
Yeah. They love it, and
Well, I was
that's the
I'm
communication.
glad that you sent that out today. I was not opted in until you sent that email out, so I suspect that with just the perfect storm of this morning's weather and people being very thoughtful and cognizant of it, that hopefully you'll see an
Right,
influx
right.
of opt-ins.
Yeah, well, and that was a lot of the emails I got back when I sent that one at whatever time it was people said, I've already opted in, but I didn't receive anything until just now. And so I just put together a message that basically said, yeah, you're right, and this is what happened. And got in a mode of just copy paste, because that was really what the questions were.
I was pointing to you because I saw the email you were referring to earlier. We have a teacher who said it seemed one of the, and maybe it's, again, this is just a fluke of this particular odd day, but that she was quoting a restriction you're under by policy that you have to make the decision by 5:30 and then really can't reverse it.
And I've communicated with her that I've never been under that policy.
Okay, I was gonna say, I
And
certain
we
policies
will,
I couldn't
we
find
will
any.
make it, I think there's some old history.
Yeah.
From what people have said. Now, that's true in terms of, we like to make a decision
of
by
course.
5:30
Thank you
in
for
order to
clarifying.
be able to. Make sure that families know so that kids can get on the bus.
Okay.
And, or make alternative plans, but.
But there is
There are
no,
no limits.
there is no state policy that
No.
says five.
No, and I,
I would have been surprised by that, but I
Right.
confess I didn't go look at.
yeah,
policy.
and so I've gone back and forth with that individual over the course of today.
Okay.
The other part of it was, I think, why didn't we do a 2-hour delay for everyone? And what I need to, today wasn't the right day to be able to put that out there, because I probably would have been a little snarky.
Yeah.
Is really about. We were caught
Yeah,
in this because we
yeah.
needed adults.
Yeah.
And can we maybe do a better job of being able to share with our staff that says. The buses are on a 2-hour delay. The day is not, because we've got kids already on the way to school and we need adults at school. So there was no way today that we could do a 2-hour delay for the adults. But did we do a good job about letting the adults know, you also need to be safe for yourself,
Yeah,
and be able to do that? So,
Okay.
it doesn't happen very often that they're disparate.
Yeah.
But I think this is the first time for me it's ever been,
It's a
Different.
learning experience.
Yeah.
it is.
Is there a reason we are offering Flash Alert and the Arrow app as opposed to,
Bright Arrow has not been our friend.
but that's the only one that gets you a text?
We're evaluating right now to go to something called Parent Square, which a number of districts use. And it has a text feature. It has the ability to be able to go from a teacher in a classroom out. This one is not user friendly in that way. And so we're looking at a change once this license is up, to be able to move us into next year to something that's a little more secure and will give us what we need. So,
I just
and
think,
then we'll get rid of
yeah, I think,
Flash Alert.
okay, I think that the risk of having multiple ways means a higher chance of people falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
Right, because I thought it was in this package, but we didn't do it on that one or this and that. It's like, no, if you want the notifications, the district email should always happen, right? But if, you know, if we're gonna have another, we should just have one, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and we'll try and do, email and text and,
Right.
Multiple ways that we can to be able to make sure people are getting, the information,
But
but yeah.
my point is, if they, other than email, which is, that we're all getting that, but if they have to sign up for an app, there should really be one option, so we don't have to worry about
Right.
things falling. through the cracks.
Yeah, and that's, we're kind of in that in-between
Yeah,
phase,
yeah.
but yes, I agree, wholeheartedly.
Okay, we got longer into that than, we probably expected.
That's
Any-
more than you wanted to know.
Yeah, but I do appreciate, I will just share an anecdote. In fact, after reading your email this morning, I thought of it when back my previous term on the board. The superintendent had made a decision on inclement weather that, probably pulled the trigger too fast. And so a lot of people were grumbling about it and the board was challenging and asking questions. And the superintendent said, I would be happy to have any member of the board take over the responsibility of making this decision. And that ended the discussion right there. The point being, it's a very difficult decision. It's a very difficult, you're under crisis mode. You've got obviously hundreds of kids and staff coming in. You've got to make a decision. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be easy. And so I applaud the fact that you just got to do this and you'll never get it. There will be times you won't get it perfectly, and that's.
No, these ones are never,
Yeah.
they're never gonna make everybody happy, and I know that.
And it is this odd situation where it looked clean and then the freeze came in 20 minutes later, or it looked like 5 or 10 minutes later. And I don't know that we can really, deal with those, other than, of course, the technology problems we should solve.
Yeah.
My dog was, it came out of nowhere. I moved here for a 0 period. I got up at like 5:30, it was fine. Like an hour later when I was leaving, I was like, oh, and there's all these cars that are off into the distance. I'm like, oh.
I just realized that my wife took the dog for a walk at like 6:45. She drove. The car, was fine. After walking the dog over at the park, then she had to scrape the windows. I just realized that she told me that herself, that she didn't have ice when she left the house. She had ice when she left the park. So, yeah, she don't.
Okay.
So, okay, nothing else from the
No,
superintendent?
I'm good.
Jennifer, off to you.
I have the reports in the board packet, but we have a couple of action items tonight.
Mhm.
The draft budget preparation calendar I put out. And we have a budget committee application that came in just today, so the board can review that and decide whether or not to appoint. Go through a couple other things and then we can get to the action pieces.
Okay.
Our final audit came in. We have all the audit documents. The auditors will be here in February to do the presentation to the board. Everything good. It was a great audit this year, no issues, so. Spoiler alert for when they come. It turned out well. Everything's with ODE and we're all finalized in that respect. Enrollment stayed the same pretty much from last month to this month, so no big changes. We did change with ODE our estimate membership and revenue in November, so they did change our state school fund estimate, which brings it back down to what we were in the very beginning of the school year, right where we had budgeted, not any extra. Property tax revenue is on track. We've gotten the bulk of it already. Like I said in the letter, usually happens in November, early December. We'll get a few more big bumps throughout the year as people pay their second, third, and the third if they break it up. And then I think Susan talked about the possible budget reduction scenarios from ODE, and we haven't heard anything yet. We're still waiting for the next revenue forecast in February, and then the legislation, the session starts in February, so hopefully they come through with some manageable decisions for the districts. We're hoping for the best on that. I think Susan has some more information to share about a couple pieces in that.
That's on the agenda later on.
Yeah. Unless there's any questions, we can talk about the budget preparation calendar and then the budget committee member, if you'd like.
The thing about, sorry to interrupt, the budget committee member is, if you recall, we needed to look for a member of our district equity committee to be a budget committee member. And we have tried.
Or by person.
Yeah, we have tried, and we've not had luck with that. And so Jennifer has reached out to some of her peer group, and we've had some conversation as well, that the Department of Ed is basically saying, if you document that you have tried, and you need to move forward with your process, and that doesn't mean we'll stop trying, that we have, we can go ahead and that's why we wanted to bring it up, so it's in the minutes, that, you know, we've done our due diligence and we have somebody that wants to be a member if you choose to endorse that membership, so.
And you each have an application there to read.
Yeah, so let me do that since we've been talking about that. So we appointed, we had two openings, took us a while, we expanded the deadline multiple times. We appointed one and filled that last month.
Right.
And then Matt Cook is a colleague of mine. I got to know the Cook family from Boy Scout troop, the son of Boy Scout. More notably, his mother was high school secretary for ever and ever, and then was on the board for probably 10 years, school board chair for 4 years. And so certainly a family with deep roots. So I'm the one who went out and recruited Matt, and he was definitely interested. We had a little issue of getting the application to the right email, which is why we didn't deal with this last month, but so I certainly would give him the thumbs up.
I've known Matt for probably 30 years, yeah.
Exactly, I would assume he certainly is in your circle for sure. So I would entertain a motion to go ahead and approve Matt's application for the budget committee.
I move that we approve Matt.
Okay,
I'll second.
excellent. Any other discussion?
Just as a note of discussion, since I don't have the application in front of me, I will not be voting, but that doesn't mean that I don't think he's gonna do a great job.
And I apologize, Jennifer and I discussed this was definitely a late ad, but I don't want to wait a whole other month. Because we've already delayed this multiple times, so, but I certainly respect that, Aaron, since we didn't get you a copy of that. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and go to a vote. All those in favor of appointing Matt to our budget committee? All right, okay, so it's 3, 1 abstention and 1 absence, so that should pass with our forum today. Okay, excellent,
Do
and
we also have to approve the calendar?
yes, so that's the
Yep.
next thing. We're gonna go into the calendar.
So I put together the draft calendar, and any discussion is welcome for the dates on here. We usually start early with an information session, and that's what I planned for February, and that's basically just budget process and information about how the budget is, how it functions. It's not anything to do with the next year's budget. It's more just budget committee, what they do and everything. And then the rest of it, we have 2 meetings for budget work session, the second one only if necessary, and then the official budget meetings in May. Also, the second one's only if necessary. So if those dates work, hopefully, I did a few of them selfishly towards the end because it's baseball season and Thursdays are baseball games, so senior year baseball season, I didn't want to miss any more than I have to.
My only question is that with the budget, with the way that the legislative session is rolling, and it doesn't start till the very end of February, right?
Mhm.
And
No, it starts early February.
early February,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
And it's a
So
short session.
It is
Yeah.
a short session,
So it's
okay.
next week.
Well, so then I guess my question might be, because I was thinking for some reason I had in my mind, it wasn't starting till the end of February.
Yeah,
And with that March 5th first, but that's the work session, not necessarily.
right. I won't have a budget ready for you at the
No.
March 5th. We can talk about kind of the outline of it, but I won't have a ready. It won't be ready for publication until May. So, yeah.
Right, so my point was that if we weren't gonna even know what we were working with.
Well, that's the reality, though.
Every.
Yeah.
We can have some,
Last minute.
scenarios,
Yeah.
multi-scenarios to look at.
Jennifer, my only request, I assume you'll send this out to both, once it's approved to the board and the budget committee members.
Mhm.
I don't quite know. So excuse me if this is nitpicking, but the formatting, so I don't know, you've got the first thing bolded there, the adoption of budget calendar. The next one is not, which is a meeting. I
Mhm.
guess would just request, make the bold ones the meetings.
Okay,
And then everything else is more just informational, because then when I go through this, then I know those are the ones I gotta pull out on my calendar. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Exactly which one.
Whether, yeah, and some, right, and some of these are, the board meetings, which the budget committee is invited to, but they don't really have to be here, that they're always welcome to come and, chime in or watch us go through that, but it's obviously the ones they need to be at the budget committee meetings themselves. And of course, the board is at all of those. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the calendar unless there's a question?
I will move.
Okay,
To a second.
all right. Aaron, any input? Aaron Judge?
Nope, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Four to nothing. Excellent. Moving on. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Oh, PEA, would you like to do a report out
Would
of?
love to.
Okay,
Would love, sorry I was late.
All right.
we won't scold you then.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming back to me. I was afraid I really missed my time. We're doing okay and, still just, going to the safety sessions, trying to get a good feel for that, encouraging people to go participate, and maintain and continue that discussion and work on that with the district. And there's been a lot of questions. We've been working closely with Susan about the new rubric. And are looking forward to some more discussions and trainings on the new 5D evaluation system, as well as a updated evaluation handbook.
This is the licensed evaluation system. We're updating the scoring guide and going to a different model. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
And been working through that in some trainings with staff at each of the different schools. So that's what it references, is our staff evaluation system and handbook.
And that's about it. Otherwise, we're doing okay. I won't be here much longer. This will be my last board meeting, by the way,
Good work.
because,
Wow,
Really
there you go.
great job.
Yes, very effective. Okay, well, best of luck with that.
thank you.
Is this your first?
Yep.
Yeah, excellent, very exciting. Rubric, is this the accountability or is this the?
No, this is a different. We've had scoring criteria when we go through the evaluation process with our licensed staff.
Oh, that's so the
And
rubric
so-
was regarding the license staff. Okay,
Right,
I was
and-
assuming it was a student rubric.
No,
Okay,
we're
that's-
just,
that
we're
was the difference.
shifting.
Yep.
Shifting over to something that we feel is a little bit more appropriate than what we adopted however many years ago.
Yeah.
But with anything like that, there's growing pains,
Sure.
so.
Sure. Okay, thank you for joining us. All right, moving on to item number 3, strategy and discussion. The Benton County Legislative Breakfast. So this is an opportunity for community leaders, school boards, city councils, to meet with and county legislators, to meet with our local state legislators. Right, the state legislators come to this,
Yep.
then the county, the county board of commissioners to talk about, crucial legislative topics. Clearly, this year will be budgeting, I imagine, be a big deal. So I just want to make, you should all have gotten personal invites to these as board members, but I just want to point out, this be the kind of thing I would definitely want to attend. I am taking Boy Scouts on a snow camp out that first Saturday, the 24th. Trust me, I would much rather go to this 2-hour legislative breakfast than a weekend of snow camping. But so hopefully somehow, Aaron.
I thought that I would be able to go, but I have. I have
Conflicts.
two Saturday morning.
Okay.
Sporting.
All right, so just be advised,
I go,
okay, great, so Susan there, but it would be nice to have one board member.
Yeah.
I also have another, just happened to be the weekend of my scout outings. But the 14th, I think I could probably make that. We would just do our outing a little later in the day. But anyway, just wanted to call that to everyone's attention. Great to have us representative and, and to push on our legislators when it comes to school funding.
Yeah, I will say I'm also unavailable on Saturday, March
Forward,
14th,
okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there are other board members
Okay.
besides yourself. I would
Yep. Well, I can hope for a blizzard and then,
support you in your attendance.
I can hope for a blizzard and then the snow camp that will be canceled, but yeah. I've got 10 boys that are pretty excited about it, so.
Fun for them.
Yes, fun for them, for sure, emphasis on them. All right, moving on, board meeting schedule, I brought this up as well as Susan, right now our current default is we meet on the second Thursday. I know from both Jennifer and Susan's standpoint, a little later in the month is better, give them more time for reports. It actually aligns better with some personal plans I have, we just want to open that up. If it just doesn't work and this is the best time, so be it, but and so. Ryan, did you and Sandy have conflict on the third Thursday?
If, is that 4-H?
Is that,
Yeah, it's Thursdays or Wednesdays.
yeah, there's Thursdays, because I had Boy Scouts on Wednesdays and with the Dallases, and they were always, they was always Scouts, because 4-H was, I think, Thursdays. Yeah,
I'm not sure about Wednesdays now.
oh, did you think it might get
That'd be
moved? Okay, yeah, that'd be great, she's up for. Because that would be better for you folks, the third Thursday, right?
We can make it, but it
Yeah.
just, it just,
Gives you a little more
gets-
breathing
especially
room.
Jennifer, it's just tight for
Yeah.
a lot of the financial.
Especially
stuff.
when the first, third, when it's really the first Thursday of the
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, well, it really.
When the first Thursday is the
Just saying
first.
on the
Okay.
third Wednesdays.
Okay, so are we okay to move the board meetings to the third Thursday?
I'm fine with that. The main reason we had moved it to the second was that often the 15th of the month is a deadline that we have to meet for decision making. It happens 2 or 3 times a year. Like March 15th is the main big cutoff for contracts and things like that. And so that was the reason we had moved it initially from the third to the second. But we can just hold a special board meeting rather than inconveniencing the entire business team. I would rather do that and make it
Oh,
easier to get those reports pulled.
And March will be, because I had noted if we move it, then
Oh, is that a,
we'll either have to do a special meeting, because on the second Tuesday in March is before the deadline for needing to make sure we look at renewal and non-renewal of our licensed staff. And if we move it to the third Thursday, we'll either have to approve it in February or have a special opportunity just to do that.
okay, well, maybe March is the exception. If that's just the one.
Or that's something we can add to the, I mean, if we know it's coming, we'll just add it to the.
We could
February
have done it
agenda.
early enough, yeah.
It's something, I mean,
It's nicer if we have more time to be able to make sure that we can
Get the decision
have
right.
all the ducks in a row, but
So I think it's fine, as long as we give a couple weeks notice. If we shift one meeting of the whole year to a different time, that's fine, as long as we give plenty of notice.
Is the third Thursday in March fall on spring break?
No.
No.
Okay. No. But if that doesn't meet the deadline, then we'd have to move it anyway, so.
yeah, if we chose to move to the third, we could move to the third for February, April, May. And just if we could keep the March one the same on the second. Jennifer, am I hijacking you?
No, I
Okay.
have the budget meetings scheduled around that
Okay.
anyways.
Okay. So that would still work, yeah, I confess I did, okay, so let's plan on that.
We don't need to vote on that, do we?
I don't think so, I mean, we can, why don't we'll go ahead and do that, just so make it official, so I'll take a motion to move.
Quick question, does that work for our student reps?
Right, so.
Well, there's a reason we have two of you, you both don't have to be here, that was literally the point, is if one can, the other one can.
Right.
Yeah, you can, but
Awesome.
it's not an obligation, we would like your ASB representative to be here too, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, I'll have that. I just
Yeah.
invited them to breakfast, to
Oh, nice.
the legislative breakfast.
Okay, I will take a motion to go ahead and move our standard board meetings to the third Thursday of the month.
I so move.
Second.
Ryan will second. All right,
Good job, Aaron.
thank you. And then with the exception of March, we'll keep March on the second Thursday just because of this deadline. Yep. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you very much. That helps. Okay, moving on, the local option levy equalization grant.
Yeah, Tom has heard more about this than he probably wants to.
Can I give it the?
Go for it.
College train.
Yeah,
We of course in Philomath now for going on 15 years, I think, have had a local option where the voters tax themselves to get operating money, not bond money to build buildings, but operating money. We get about $500,000 from our own operating money. Am I getting that close?
Last year it was over
Oh,
800.
geez, back in my day, it was,
Yeah.
we only got like 460, so that's phenomenal that
Yeah.
we've got that much more coming in. Less economically advantaged, districts, the state has a matching grant, so you have some districts like Corvallis, like Lake Oswego that have high property values. Districts like ours have lower property values, so the district has a matching fund for this levy. And we've been getting that since we first got the levy 12 some years ago. With the budget cuts, it has been made clear the impending budget cuts. The legislature is threatening to take away this year's equalization grant, matching grant. That would mean cutting $600,000 out of this year's budget. But not knowing that until, the next several weeks. And so we wouldn't be taking $600,000 out of an annual budget, we'd be taking $600,000 out of the last 4 or 5 months of the year. So you have to take 600,000 out of a third of the budget. We've already hired teachers, we've already committed their contracts, et cetera. There's very limited amounts of things we can do. It'd be very painful. Cutting school days or radically reducing staff in a very sudden way would be the only way out of this. So the superintendents and other boards are pushing aggressively back on the legislature. If you're going to take this away next year, that's bad enough, but to take it away this year would be truly and completely devastating. So there is a letter circulating for the boards to acknowledge, to say, or basically push this, that say, we really can not afford this cutback this year, and please do everything legislature that you can to avoid that. But we're not actually approving the letter tonight, right?
no, it's the letter's actually gone.
Okay, all right.
Or I mean, it was to go today at noon.
Okay.
But
So it has my name on it as board chair, but it doesn't have the weight of the board.
yeah, the idea was really to be able, we pushed this from a superintendent level, to be able to say, this can't happen. Please think about it, because for some of us, it's a huge detriment. And so the School Administrator Association has worked with us, the 6 represented school districts, and we've crafted together the letter that was to go today, or excuse me, tomorrow. It'll go tomorrow to the chairs, the co-chairs of the Ways and Means Committee, the co-chairs of the House and Senate, and the legislators representing each of the districts, each of the 6 districts involved in the process. I've had a chance to reach out to our legislators ahead to be able to provide advance information to them. At the legislative session we were at the ESB, it was raised and said, you just
You can't do it.
you can't do it to us in a current year of what it is we're going with. And like Jennifer said, we got $844,599 last year. She budgeted 600,000. Whereas there are some of these other districts that got 214,000, that they budgeted 214,000 for this year. So it's it would be a huge detriment.
But you can't, Tom mentioned cut school days, you can't cut school days either, because you have to have a certain number of days.
Yeah.
We would have to, get approval from all the associations to cut days, because we can do furlough days as a budget reduction. If we need to, but there's gotta be agreement, and then it would be, if we lose the instructional time, it's a waiver to the state to say, for these reasons, we're not gonna get the instructional hours we need. It's bad for the staff, it's bad for the kids.
So that, just to clarify, so first of all, we used to be, I don't know, we typically have more instructional hours than are state mandated.
We do, but not by.
Not 7 days, where it's not 7 days, yeah, maybe a day or so, right? And so
Yeah.
we had some margin in there. when this has happened in the past, post 2008, the governor, or at least, I assume it was the governor of the state legislature, reduced the number of requirements or hour requirements, school day requirements because of the budget shortfall. So that's a likely scenario. The contract, the way it used to be, is under certain circumstances, the district really made the choice that we had to cut school days. It didn't require PEA or OSEA's buy off. It was when we had a budget and then the budget was cut mid-year. These kind of things are after certain revenue projections. And so is that still the case?
I just have to go back and take a look at what the current language.
So anyway, the point is in some circumstances, absolutely, if we change the number of days, the teachers definitely need to weigh in. There have been in the past circumstances where if our hands are tied, they may not have input on it. Cutting school days is terrible, terrible, terrible scenario. And I sure as heck hope we don't have to go there. But if this happens, frankly, there is not gonna be many other options. So this is.
Letter is going out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then looking forward, like going into budgeting, I mean, we all but assume that this will be.
Yeah, for next year, we're gonna really need to, in budget prep for next year, we're really gonna have to have conversations about it. Especially if they're leaning towards making a decision that, okay, we'll give you 1 year, but not the other. And our hope is that they would say, we're not gonna take it away from you. At all.
That would be lovely.
Which would be ideal, but we've already talked about, for reasons of, do we start now to be able to say no? We're stopping all non-essential expenses. We've talked about what could we do, which we don't want to do with contingency. What would it mean for a technology budget? What would it mean for instructional materials? So we're trying to find any and all possibilities in permutation about what we might be able to do.
Kim, we want to save on power.
Yeah,
And in theory, because of that's like the shortened session, it should be like beginning of March, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, thank you, by the way, I was gonna ask if I got most of that right. Okay, so that, no action there, just unfortunately, gloom and doom update. All right, keeping us on track here. Any update on the pool?
Yeah, I do. And I just didn't have it written today, but it's good news. We are excited that our initial work is nearing readiness. We do have estimated dollar amounts
This is the filter replacement.
for the filter replacements and the chemical controller from a group called Strong Refuge Pool. And right now, what we're waiting on is we're completing an application for a plan review to Oregon Health Authority that if you're going to build or change or whatever a public swimming pool, or there's a couple other things attached to that. The title is really long. Which what they were asking for the other day is we've had maps out to take a look at what are the pump numbers. And things like that. It's kind of like, oh God, where do we find it? So we're just digging into the weeds to make sure we have all the information to fill out appropriately for that application. And once that application is approved, we will get the filters in there. And this part of the project is really, once you get the filters in and get them set up and everything aligned, we could probably do it in a day to be able to make the transition from old to new and not have to do mega long-term closure to be able to make that happen. So it's exciting that we're to this place right now and we're ready to really look at being able to move forward and do some good things.
Great. Yeah, so the work actually is hoping to start on what time?
We just have to, I don't know what the,
I think Eugenia mentioned that they could be ready to go early February
okay.
to
thank
start
you.
the work.
Early. Imminent.
Yeah.
Great. All right, the next step is preschool.
And the reason I put this in here is next steps is, I figured if anybody's gonna get calls, it's gonna be our board. To be able to say, why is Next Steps not offering a program in the winter? And so really wanted to put it out there because we've worked very hard to be able to do our best to be able to partner appropriately with strengthening rural families. So strengthening rural families, like it says from 2016-17, they have done a preschool in our community. And over the last 8 years, I would say, it's really become connected at Clemens Primary School. There's a lot of joining of forces in terms of instructional materials and avenues. Students get to know the school, all those other kinds of things, which is a real benefit for us. And so I put in the report that we had that the numbers of students, so they started this year with 34 students in the fall. There's no winter programming. They're not sure about the spring. Last year they had 35, 23, 24. They had 23, and it was a partially shortened year. When we look at it, we have had over the past, and when we look to years ahead of that, times when the district has really afforded a fair amount of money to the preschool program. And we're just not in that kind of place anymore where we can fund, and there's differences of opinion between different people. We don't get money in the state school fund for students who are preschoolers. And so if we put more money to the preschool and end up needing to cut one of our K-12 staff members, it's gonna be an uproar potentially, because we're supporting a program for students that we don't receive money for at the expense of something for students that we do receive money for. Now, there are other superintendents and other setups that will say, I'm paying for the future. And so I will, I'll take that risk and pay that forward. And because I know what I might get out of that into the future. So, you know, that's the conundrum and the difference. I believe in preschool very strongly, and I hate to not have it, but I also feel strongly that we can't do it on the backs of the district to be able to support the whole.
And have we ever, other than, I mean, we give them use of the building and those kind of things, but we've never written a check to support the preschool program.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
And what,
We
I
did,
guess I do know that, we talked about that last time.
yeah, we
So
yeah.
What is the number for this,
we,
last year? This year, we're not, right?
this year we budgeted 10,000.
10,000.
Last year we budgeted 10,000.
Okay, so it's
23, 24, we didn't pay anything.
Oh, here, I'm looking at it.
In 22, 23, the district put forward almost $17,000, but there was a $33,730 leftover pocket of money. The Kindergarten Partnership and Innovation comes from the Department of Early Learning and Care. And so it is the Early Learning Hub group. And so they give money in this Kindergarten Partnership and Innovation. And that money we have given directly to Strengthening Rural Families because they operate our program. So we don't keep that, we've given it straight to them. And then what we've paid in addition, well, if there's money left over from other districts out of the KPI funds, districts can apply for it because our Early Learning Hub here says, we're not gonna send any money back. If we've got money in the pot, we're gonna give it to people. And so as you see in 22, 23, there was quite a wad of KPI money that was unspent. That was able to be claimed for Strengthening Rural Families. So had there not been that money in the Kindergarten Partnership and Innovation, then, you know, we're looking at close to a $50,000 potential bill to the district in that particular year. So that was kind of at a time when we said, we got to start watching out for what we're doing.
So then, and this was what I was, like, 10,000 is not a huge number.
No,
Yeah, right, I mean, it is not very significant in our broader budget.
absolutely.
But you're taking a position, given the cuts that we're about to, I mean, that we could see this year with the equalization grant being taken away, matching fund being taken away, and certainly next year, you're advocating you wouldn't support this next year at all.
You know, and that's why I wanted to bring it forward, because the $10,000 felt like a level of support to be able to say, we're in it with you.
Right.
That seems to be reasonable. The other thing that we continue to have conversations about is The Next Steps program is operated free to all participants. We've talked about, a fee for service. That's not the choice of Strengthening Rural Families of what they want to do. And we can't change that or influence it. Also in the 22-23 school year, their board doubled the enrollment in the program. So what we saw is $40,000 bills, all of a sudden become $80,000 bills in the course of a year. And so, and they've not moved to do that. Well, I struggle with that because it's kind of like, well, if we have more, or if we have less students in preschool, is that a good thing? No. I mean, so it's that whole conundrum about, where do you put your limited resources? The other part we know is that Strengthening Rural Families, the grants that they have been able to obtain in the past, there are multiple more people asking for those grant funds. So they're less likely to get them. And so they're struggling to be able to do their fundraising as well, and then early learning funds are just getting cut left and right. So, one of the things that we've done, Strengthening Rural Families sent out their campaign letter, in December. And, thanks to the work of Abby Couture, the principal at Clemens, she crafted, and we've been working together on a letter from the Philomath School District, that just encourages their goodness, and saying we endorse their work. It's Strengthening Rural Families program, so the money needs to go to them. But it's really about how can we help them, also without feeling like we've got to pick up more and more and more when things could get tighter and tighter and tighter.
First of all, do we charge them for the use of the facility?
$250 a month.
So,
Yeah.
no, okay.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a few thousand across the year, so that eats into the 10,000 we give them, right? So we're kind of paying out and just getting it right back, some of it right back, but what I don't follow is we give them 10,000, but then you'd say they want to bill us for 40 to, you said 80,000, I mean.
When we went back to, so if you look at 2022-23, they got a little bit in the KPI funding. We put in that's almost 17,000,
Right.
but if they would not have received that 33,730 of extra KPI money, the expectation was the district would support this because they had no other funds from Strengthening Rural Families to do it. And so that's when we said, we've really got to drop back to what we believe we can afford, to be a team player and to be supportive,
I think,
but not,
it's not a blank check.
no.
So to me, at minimum, the agreement would be, look, this is basically a grant that, Strengthening Rural Family administers, and if other funding sources dry up, it doesn't mean they just get to assume we're gonna cover it. This is
Right.
purely here's what we are providing, and you have to work within that, and if it goes beyond, then they're the ones who have to make the difficult
Right,
decision of what.
and they know that now. We're
Okay, so that's.
over the last 2 years, we're all in the same camp. I went and talked to Paul Smith and about, presenting this to the board. From the standpoint of being able to say our board members are gonna be the ones that are gonna get questions about why it isn't running. And I wanna be able to be really upfront and forthright and to be able to say, we support them. We support their efforts as fundraisers to be able to get money for the program. We will help them in multiple ways, of whatever we can. But we just can't.
So my take
Yeah.
would be, if when we're looking at budgeting, we hold it at 10,000 on that agreement, that's then assuming they can offer a program. If they can't offer a program, preschool program, then we get that back. I mean, it's
Right.
not just Strengthening Rural Family funding, it's for that program. And if that doesn't cover it, then they either have to find a way to cover it, or they don't run the program, they refund us. Or we don't write the check to them, whatever.
Right.
If we get into budgeting and that 10,000 is a make or break for some other critical program that's, K-12, then we would have to look at just dropping the 10K even.
What
That's
do
Tom's
their,
decision.
where do their expenses originate? And I'm thinking back to my kids, it was a half-day program with one instructor and a volunteer.
It's a full day program.
Is it full day now? Okay.
But it's not every day, it's like.
The kids, they've got a morning session
Morning sessions in the afternoon.
I'm looking at you because you know better than I do, because you live in that school.
Yeah, they have a morning session and afternoon session that happen every other day. And they have 2 teachers. And I think since I've been at Clemens, they've had 2 teachers, Miss Bennett and Michelle. To my knowledge, Michelle has not ever been a volunteer. She's been a hired teacher.
Yeah, there's 2 paid staff.
And
Well, that's,
they,
that's,
Both of their benefits.
that's it right there.
yeah, and we hired Miss Bennett and Michelle and now Miss Nelson each.
Oh, I was having such a hard time thinking you were saying Michelle, like that.
Miss-
Michelle.
Laura Shell.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew who it was. I just don't-
Yeah, yeah, and Sarah Nelson. Just, it's an awesome program, and if you've ever been in a kindergarten classroom, you know what an intense environment it can be, and I'll tell you, in the first week of school, you can tell which students have had access to preschool and which students have not, and it is, kindergarten is really hard. If you haven't been in a kindergarten classroom in a decade, please go see what kindergarten is like. It's really, really hard. And preschool is very important. So, you know, we have an awesome staff and it's great. I understand restrictions and things like that, but I can't tell you how thankful I am for SURF and not only next steps that they provide, but all of the services they provide to our families in the district, including early learning that's not pre-K, but for babies and children. They do a 3-rubrics class and they do parenting classes, and all in our building that familiarizes the community early on with our school. It's extremely valuable.
The 3 RIFICs and the parent stuff, those with different funding streams and sources will continue.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand completely.
But we're just, but yeah,
Want to put a little.
but I agree, they do great stuff.
You don't need to convince me that I wish
They
we
do
could
great
fully
stuff.
fund the preschool program for every kid who's coming into the district, because I am eminently, I mean, the evidence is, you know, forget the anecdotal, the actual research shows how unbelievably, I mean, right, we've been knowing this for a couple of decades now, that early childhood development it will predict decades of failure or success for students,
Yeah,
so.
well, 3 or 4 years ago, when Abby and company put together a plan for, actually it was longer ago than that, they put together a 5-year plan that would have been about 3 or 4 years ago. And at that point, the 5th year was planned to be universal preschool for all.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's 4 years later, it's not a reality still, so.
This is educational funding in Oregon, unfortunately, nationwide as well, but largely in Oregon. Okay, so anyway, that's my take, other, you know, in terms of, if we can find a way at least to continue to provide the 10,000. But, you know, if we have to have serious discussion about that, we'll have to have serious discussion about that. Any counter opinions out there?
I agree, it's a good program, my kids were in it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that one teacher before them and somebody from Lobster Bow.
Mhm.
She was LB.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
LB
yeah, that was my daughter went through.
So did my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that was LB. They were at independent school for a while. That's what my daughter went through. And then she moved to Clemens, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, it's
she's
awesome.
Long retired, but.
I guess I also would like to just, what Miss Crane said is incredibly true. And
Yes.
I think it's a travesty that our education system doesn't start at a much younger age and is funded appropriately. And unfortunately, we aren't gonna solve that problem in this room or within our budget, no matter how much we would like to.
Yep.
I feel really strongly that anything we can do to support this preschool program or any preschool program within our school district will pay dividends. So I would love to be able to find that wiggle room in the budget. I just am having a hard time seeing the reality of that, unfortunately. So I agree with Tom in that anything that we can do to continue to provide the baseline of that $10,000, that program is invaluable. I think it's incredibly important, especially to Mrs. Crane's point, to the children who otherwise would not have any access to preschool. And within it, while it is not our responsibility as the Fulton School District in like law, I think that it's a disservice.
In
to our
practice, it
community.
is.
It's a disservice to our community.
And I-
Our students don't
I-
we can't.
Do
Yep.
appreciate what you shared about how challenging kindergarten must be now, because I've heard that, you know, that's school district wide. Students become more and more challenging in the last 5 to 10 years, and the kindergarten level is probably, yeah, so.
You love.
Yeah, well, of course, I know, I totally get that, but it doesn't mean you don't want to occasionally throw them across the room,
But
you know, so
reading for 60 minutes a day, 90 minutes a day for a 5-year-old is,
a lot, yeah,
it's a lot.
I totally get it,
Man.
totally get it, yep. Anyway, God bless you for what you do for them and for our district. Okay, moving on.
We want to support. Yep.
We are definitely a little bit behind here. Just the rights of undocumented students resolutions, these are previous resolutions. Susan, I think you were just bringing them forward as a reminder, given
Yes.
that more and more ICE actions are happening in our broader community. Is there any questions, concerns about those? We could certainly revisit those, but they seem very
Yeah, that's the only reason I put it out there, was just to be able to continue to raise awareness and let people know that, yes, we did approve some things, put some stuff in place. We've had a parent meeting. We had a winter celebration for families. And we had some things in place to be able to make sure that if there was an ICE presence, what would we do? And I had a chance to meet with the police chief that basically said, unless there's fisticuffs and people getting in harm's way, there's not a lot that we can do in terms of being able to intervene. And so, but it was nice to feel like we could engage in those conversations, even though they weren't the answers we wanted. But to be able to do the best we can to support our families, and that's what we want to keep doing, is supporting families and kids.
And as far as like dissemination of this resolution within staff and teachers, this is all, I assume that they've all read this, seen this. So
Yeah,
know where
it's-
their support systems
It's all out there. The basic premise is, if somebody tries to breach a school, Kelsey and I are the two that will come and, you know, make sure that they've got to have appropriate credentials, appropriate need to be able to have access, or we're not gonna, and opportunity to connect with legal counsel, and we're not gonna allow.
No, I think it does an excellent job of articulating what the limits are and our mechanisms for, you know, upholding those limits, and knowing that those limits aren't endless, right? I mean, eventually, immigration can get into the building if they follow the right protocol, but that's the whole point of this, is make sure they have to follow the right protocol.
Well, if they're waiting at bus stops, and, you know, which is some of the things that other communities are seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just, there's not a lot that you can do within that, but we want to support in whatever way we can.
Okay, let's see, other questions. The Philomath Community Visioning, so this is something I've been starting to connect with. So this is being driven out of the city, but it's very clearly not a city focused initiative. It's a true community visioning. This is all about, they're calling it Philomath 2050. What does Philomath want to look like, you know, in 2050? This so includes obviously the city, but also the fire department, and even the county intersects with us. Of course, the school district, all the nonprofits, and even businesses, chamber, Rotary, those kind of places. So it is about setting a grand vision for Philomath, again, for the next 25 years or beyond. They are having this kickoff event next Thursday evening. I think all you board members might have gotten a personal invitation from our mayor. This is my,
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
it's at 7 o'clock on the 15th, a week from today. Fortunately, I will be down in California, so I'm disappointed because it's supposed to be this is, by the way, not a planning session. This is literally a celebration. They're gonna have lunch and cookies and giveaway prizes and at the Scout Lodge. 7 o'clock on the 15th at the Scout Lodge. So encourage you to attend. I plan on joining the planning effort. They're gonna meet, I don't know if it's every week or every other week through, you know, the next 4 to 6 months for this initiative. I'm just opening that up. If there's other board members who are interested, you can please let me know. It will be a commitment. And of course, at minimum, I would, you know, just be the liaison and representative back and forth. But I'm interested and willing to do it. But we could certainly have more than one of us if there's if there's that desire. But please, everyone and anyone who can make it to the kickoff, do attend. Because at this point I am, out of town. Questions on that? Okay, great. All right, the big topic here are our district objectives. I sent an email directly to folks, and then you will also see them in your board packet.
I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. It's always a little tricky to try to boil down, and this was Susan and I, for sure, we sat down and, tried to narrow it down. And it did a little bit of cleanup of language, but frankly, I think we did a pretty good job in the board meeting itself, so there wasn't a lot of that. It's really more just, kind of structuring it a little, more clearly, but. Is there any inputs or,
I have one thing, it's not really, it's how the possible strategy, and I was thinking about your post-graduation, trying to get like 1 day, 1 year. You don't really have, I don't know how good a success rate there's gonna be, but I'm wondering if that could be a high school type thing where a junior or senior reaches out to each of those kids. Cause they may have more insight for the kids, like, hey, I wish I would have done this. So I thought better, rather than the teacher reaching out, it might be a good way for somebody, either a junior or senior, that every student could pair up with a kid. Try to contact them 6 months out. The senior could have a kid 1 or 2 years back that they already know.
Right.
That's gonna be scheduled. I think there might be more response than a teacher reaching out.
We started talking about, what possibilities are and what the return rate would be. Because we'd have to get home emails or personal emails for people to be able to do that. And then it was kind of like, can we just do a blanket send out from the school? But we're open to being able to say what would be a good way to do it, so,
okay, that definitely falls on the strategy list. Possible strategies, Ryan, so I'm gonna add that to the document here. Considering having each graduate assigned to a underclassman.
Yeah.
To connect with after 6 months and share, what they wish they had known or done or something like
I
that,
think
right?
that'd actually be really cool. That'd be a really good thing to do, especially like. Cause I feel like as an underclassman, it's very much like an unknown kind of thing, like even sophomore year, it's just kind of like you kind of don't have a gist of what high school really means yet. Or like what it's setting you up for, so I think that would be really helpful to get like a running start into like after high school. Or even like starting in middle school.
Is there a buddy system in place at all, like when from incoming freshmen have like an upperclassman that?
I don't think so.
not everybody.
Not at all.
Not really.
It's been the link crew thing was back in the day, but.
Yeah, and Link Crew's not happening, they've made that more of a, students who
You just need
need a
better
little support to be
transition.
able
Yeah, better
to do the
support.
transition,
Yeah.
so.
It might also help students get more involved in things, so it would be a very good thing.
So here's how I captured it, and this again really leave it up to the staff, but Ryan, consider having each graduate assigned to an underclassman to share their 6-month post-graduation experience and what advice they would share for that other student's remaining time in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so basically, we kept all the objectives with the exception of one. There was the one around, just building team collaboration. Susan's sense was we're on a good track there, and given that we're trying to limit the number, didn't feel that one surfaced to the top. All of these are quite significant. There also is the issue that if they are going to require additional staffing or funding, we're going to hit the wall on that. So we'll have to think through that. But there is a lot of this that could be done with, just changing priorities or how we, the year-end handoffs and whatnot. So if we're good with this, we would adopt these and turn them over to Susan for start working with her staff and for them to flush out more, some of the strategies and then the metrics. And she mentioned to me today that the staff or admin team already starting to think about some of the different metrics. Most of these were just my initial proposals, really a brainstorming list. And again, that's why I put them at the top. Possible strategies, possible metrics. Those 2 columns really should come from the staff.
I have one other question on this. We're basically using this as a guide for evaluation, because kind.
For
Yes.
Susan, but
Yes.
absolutely, yeah.
So do we need to somehow identify starting marks? So that we can grab this a year from now, 2 years from now and say, here's where we.
The starting should be now. I think it's really more about, you know, milestones and completions.
But is this a board thing, or just because if somebody grabs this 3 years from now?
Well, the hope is this is really, as I put in the email, this is the rest of this year, and because we're so late in this year, and these are quite significant, I think it's through next year, right? And maybe some of them have to be a multi-year beyond that, but we want to start seeing progress in this next 36 months, basically.
But I guess I'm just after a start, something, I don't know who comes up with this, so that Susan can come back to us in a year and say,
Right.
hey, these objectives, this is where we were. And I guess maybe that falls on Susan, is identifying where we are now.
Right, exactly,
And then-
absolutely. So the plan going forward, if we adopt these, my plan would be, every board meeting, we would probably reserve 20 to 30 minutes. And we would, on a rotating basis, pick one or two of these to talk about in that board meeting. So, you know, we're not gonna put this on the shelf and wait a year to see, well, what have you done, Susan? It's, you know, and there be maybe some that are more pertinent at this particular board meeting, so that's what we prioritize. But my hope would be over the course of 3 or 4 months, we've gone through the whole list and then we would start again. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
My only question was about the very bottom one, the school foundation.
Yes, so you know, so I signed that to us as a board, and
Yeah.
not to Susan, yeah. So I would sign that to you personally.
Great,
Yeah.
okay, I love that responsibility for me.
Yes, so is that, you want to get into that?
No, I mean, I just was.
Yeah, so, yeah, so I'm willing to start being the point on this, at least get my thoughts. Just a quick side is, I think we did talk about it in a work session. I'm actually on the board, I'm the treasurer of what's known as the Philomath Performing Arts Benefit Fund. Think of it as like the booster club for sports, but this is for the performing arts and all the schools, K-12. And we've raised an endowment. Depending on how the market did this year, we're probably gonna be close to $350,000 in our endowment. And we give out 4% of that every year. That's the kind of thing I think we're looking at here. And whether it's an endowment or just, you know, we get annual donations and then the district gets to decide, I mean, that's what we would go work with. Philomath, Susan's already started this conversation, and the Philomath Community Foundation, I should step back again, the Performing Arts Benefit Fund that I'm on, that $350,000, we don't manage that. The Philomath Community Foundation manages it on our behalf, because that's what they do. They have the endowment funds and they manage. So I don't do stock trades, I don't do forecasting, I don't do, you know, risk analysis. They manage all that for us, and they just tell us what the balance is. And, you know, we put more money in each year. And then, you know, they tell us the balance at the end of the year. So Susan's already started that conversation with PCF, Community Foundation, and we would basically, and they seem very amenable to this, and we basically say, yes, we want to create a Philomath Schools Foundation. And my only concern is we may want to pick a different name, because Philomath Community Foundation and Philomath Schools Foundation sound a little too much alike. So we may pick a whole different kind of name, that just so there's not that confusion. But the idea would be, we would just literally at first just start a fund. We could just even solicit, you know, a handful of people to put a little money in there just to get the ball rolling. And then we can start talking about, you know, do we do an annual fundraising campaign? Do we do fundraising, you know, a fundraising event, for example? But at least just to get the structure in place, and then B, maybe some seed money just to get it moving, would be what I would propose.
One more question. So I like the idea of doing this at a meeting, because then this actually feels like we're involved in doing something versus sitting here. But what are we taking out of it? Because if you're saying 20 to 30 minutes to this.
Yeah, well,
We already get behind it, so if we
Yeah.
hadn't add that.
So, yeah, so the very fair point. The one thing is, I mentioned this with the Bethel School District, the way they do this is, every 3 months, their regular board meeting is a work session like we did in December. So that is one option. We just, every 3 months, we just vote on objectives. The other thing is, frankly, we just get much more focused in our meetings, and a lot of things that Susan, you know, puts on the agenda, we just force to communication, and we don't, you know, have a verbal presentation here. So I think there's a couple of different models. Susan, I can start talking.
Yeah, well, that's-
Since there.
Whatever.
Well, and I guess by the financial report, the superintendent's report could probably get shortened to action items or key
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
We get in the packet, we get like.
The actual written report,
All that,
right,
so if there's
exactly.
anything that's
So that kind of thing, that's exactly what I wanted to work on, is this really, as you noted, right, this really is what we should be doing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we could shorten those other things.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, that would be the idea. Yeah, as you know, my commitment is always to try to keep these meetings to 2 hours. If like, I mean, last time, if we get to that 9 o'clock and we still aren't done, this happened last time. We would take a little vote. Do we want to stay an extra 10 minutes to finish up, or do we just move the items? And so I am committed to that, and I think we do need to be focused on objectives and really moving things forward rather than just, you know, checking boxes of reports and whatnot. And the only way to make sure we have time for this is to streamline some of that. other stuff.
No, and I appreciate that, because I feel like we sit here to get information, but we're not
Yeah.
doing much as a
Right,
board.
right.
Where this is actually, and whether we're doing anything or not, at least we are helping.
We're discussing it and focusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And because we do have to be careful, right? If you spend so much time on it and we just keep adding more, well, then, you know, it's the old line. If everything's a priority, then nothing is. And so, you know, that's one that we've got to be careful too, is just because we have another great idea. No, we gotta, if we're gonna add something, we gotta take something off, right? And so, and we can't be whipsawing too much either.
So do you want a motion to approve this?
If we're good with, and what we're really approving is the list of objectives. The strategies and the metrics are really advisory. So we're really adopting that set of objectives. Yeah, the 6 superintendent and the 1 board objective.
I move that we approve those objectives. I think you did a great job of capturing what we talked about.
Yeah, because I just realized I put in as a placeholder the stipend. Did you ever?
I didn't put it back in.
Okay, so we'll leave it for that and we can come back and talk about
Okay.
it. Yeah.
If
There
we
is-
want to add, we can.
Yeah, exactly. So just quick side on that, the teachers union has had requests to look at the extra duty stipends. There is concern, this actually came up when I was on the board quite a while ago, that, you know, they've just kind of become inequitable. Someone has to do a lot more work for their stipend versus someone else does a lot less work for even a bigger stipend or the same stipend, et cetera. And so there has been a desire to look at that. That's not a trivial exercise because it does mean some people will probably be winners and losers in that. And so we just got to figure out where that fits in. But I just want to acknowledge I probably have a few teachers out there listening. We've heard that. We've got to figure out how to make that one happen. In the past, when that was attempted, my recollection was, you know, a lot of people just thought, oh, this would just mean we're going to have more money for stipends. And no, unfortunately, it meant there's going to be some takeaways and some giveaways. And that obviously got
This was
controversial.
looked at 2 years ago too, I think. I think when I first joined the board, there was a subcommittee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some looking and we never got all the way into, what is a stipended thing and what isn't. And, so I mean, we got partway through the pieces we needed to do for that, but we didn't get all the way through it.
So just know that one's still simmering out there about whether we bring it
Yeah.
forth, but I just, because
Or it may still happen, it may just not be.
Yeah, sure,
Speak
yeah,
with
absolutely, it doesn't have to be elevated.
Yeah.
But it's not, it is a sticky wicket, there's no question about it. Okay, so that was the only one, so that's not on the list, but yeah, we have a motion, okay, and that again is for 6 6 superintendent objectives and the 1 board objective. Motion and a second. Aaron, any additional comments? Aaron Judge?
No, I've been very much in agreement. Ooh,
Excellent. Okay.
there's a weird echo on my end. I agree
Yeah.
with what has been said.
Excellent, okay, yeah, I'm proud of this, this was a good discussion last month, and these are really great objectives. None of them are trivial, it's definitely, and so Susan will have to prioritize and figure out, and at some point come back and say, we can't achieve this one for budget reasons, or because these others are too, but that is obviously her next big step. And then just, let's take a vote on this, then we'll talk next step. So, all those in favor of adopting the objectives?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. So that's 4-0. And I do know that we can't count her vote because she's not chiming in here, but Sandy gave me the thumbs up when she read them earlier in the week. So I think she's in support of these. So next steps, we talked about how we will, so this is now to Susan to start working with her staff, which I think she's already done, to start vetting these and then starting looking at strategies and metrics. I would obviously drop the first column and we'll create a document that, you know, becomes our working document. And so again, we'll figure out what our review frequency is. And then, Ryan, back to your point about her evaluation. Yes, having been a professional manager for 30 years and written probably, you know, 300 performance evaluations. To me, there are 3 categories of things you focus on evaluation, and I know there's, you know, state protocols for administrators and whatnot, but there is, first of all, there's two major categories. There's the what was accomplished. And within that, there is the day job, as we've talked about, just making sure students are getting educated and buses run on time and kids are getting fed and, you know, running the whole school district. How does Susan do her day job? That's category number one, subcategory number one, or call it A. And then the other part of the what she did is the objectives. Did she move the needle forward? Did she achieve some of the objectives? So those are, you know, two subparts of the evaluation. And then the other part is the how, right? Does she have a staff that, you know, trusts and respects her? Does she collaborate well with peers? Does she engage well with the community? The way I always explain that is, if you have someone who is great and brilliant at accomplishing a whole bunch of stuff, but just POs everybody in the process and bulldozes over everybody, not a great situation. And then the reverse is, if they accomplish nothing, but everyone loves them and thinks they walk on water and they're great, also not a good situation, right? They need to be a good balance of being able to get things done and move things forward, but also in a way that, you know, brings people along. So when we get to superintendent evaluation, that would be the construct I would bring forward. That makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Good.
Okay, so we have a set of objectives. Excellent job to the board. Well done.
Yep.
Okay, graduation requirements
Yeah, that was,
in our policy. Moving on to a policy discussion. Sorry.
thank you. It's the policy, as we start to enter into some differences between what seniors this year are expected to have versus what freshmen this year are expected to have by the time they graduate. We're starting to see some of that gradation. So this was the opportunity to be able to update the language and the number of credits that different students need to have in order to graduate. And so it's been vetted by both the Philomath Academy and Philomath High School to be able to make sure that we're accurate in our numbers of credits. The last page of the document really, for me, kind of spells out what's in the inside and the guts of it. That really talks about, for a standard diploma, this is the number of credits I need based on what class I'm in. And,
Just point out, that's actually a separate document in our.
It is a separate-
in our- Well, if you're in the agenda part. Sorry.
Oh, okay, thank
That's-
you.
Yeah, just so it's
Yeah.
a 2-page secondary.
And so, you know, what it means for the standard diploma, what's responsible for an honors diploma, a valedictorian diploma, and a modified diploma. And so really, it's cleaning this up. One of the things that we're looking at right now that we're going through that may actually be an adjustment, not for this year. But we've got government and civics. Legislatively, this year, students need to have a civics class. We found two different interpretations from the Department of Education, one that said it needs to be a standalone civics class, and the other that said it could be a government class as long as it encompasses government and civics standards, which is the interpretation we took. And when I talked to ODE the other day, they said, oh, no, it has to be standalone. And it's like, wait a minute, you got conflicting pieces of information. So we're in the conversation now about what does that mean for this year, which is what we've got in this, versus what does it mean in terms of its alterations for next year. Personal finance is no longer considered a social science or a social studies credit. It's now out on its own. And then the new standards that are coming in for social sciences will also have something for economics. So, you know, as things change, we're gonna need to change and take a look at requirements that may differ dependent upon what class students are in. So this was our opportunity to try and take a really comprehensive look about making sure our language was clean and clear.
And so the policy itself, not the summary you're showing here, the
Right.
policy itself has a bunch of yellow markups.
Right.
Those are coming from,
Those are coming from the state.
those are, that's what.
And they're also being, well, and they're added based on really the requirements from the state.
Okay.
So that was why those things, it was just those were places that changed and were different.
Okay, and so first reading, we'll adopt this next month, as you're thinking.
Yeah, we can do that. I just wanted to
Yep.
put it out there tonight to get it on our radar, at least for the first thing.
Okay, but again, most of this are just state requirement all the modifications.
That and cleaning up our language to be able to make sure that there was agreement from school to school and,
Like the certificate of attendance.
right, and how we were reporting and things like that, so.
Okay, very good.
Is there any sense of urgency around this? Because we are allowed to pass on a first reading if we choose to vote and pass on the first reading.
I still think we're okay.
Okay.
Because the numbers in the summary are what they have to be. It would just be making sure that everything in the specifics of the policy actually line out. So it's really more of the crosswalk if people wanted to spend time to do it. But I believe we still have the opportunity to be able to engage in the dialogue, even if we approve it in February, that will still have us ready for forecasting and the things that we need to do. But thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
And then, in all fairness, I more skimmed through it, didn't read through it, because it was the first reading, so I'll take more time to just make sure it fully jives with my perspective, so. Yeah, but thank you, Aaron, that's always a good point.
Very good.
Okay, so we're getting close here. Yeah, we're down to the LBO.
Local service plan we approved last year, there have been updates, and so the ESD has asked us if we would approve the updated local option, or excuse me, local service plan. And the changes that are in it, kind of a summary of the changes, are just people. So if a superintendent has changed in a district, that has been changed. The numbers of student enrollment, that has changed to reflect its currency. But as far as content of specific services
Tier 1 versus.
or changes within those things, and Michelle, I'm looking at you to make sure I'm right. Those things remain intact. And so it's more about demographic things than it is about the substance and service.
Okay, so that was exactly what I struggled with as I was reading through this, is exactly what are we approving?
Yep, that's why I wanted to ask specifically.
Okay,
And it was really about, we've had some superintendent changes, we've had some staff changes, we got some picture changes.
you say superintendent, you mean at ESD you're talking about?
I'm talking about other districts,
Other
because this represents, it represents other districts. So for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Candace
sure.
Pelt is not at Central Lynn anymore, it's Rob Hess, and so they've just made the changes to be able to be, and to be reflective of their own staff and staff responsibility. Before, there were a number of things, for instance, in the plan that had Steve Martinelli as the overseer. And they've spread some wealth out in who the responsible parties are for that, but it doesn't change the service.
I've never seen any of those names in here, like here, I mean, other than the ESD staff. But anyway,
It's all
so,
listed under, like, just down below the LBL stuff. It's just got like doesn't have pictures. It just has
okay,
mascots or, I don't know what
okay.
it's called.
Oh, the actual,
Logos.
yeah, okay, yeah. District summary, all right, well, yeah, that's just the logo. Anyway, so there's, so I mean, it's really informational, right? And then the other document that you've submitted here, the local service plan agreement. This is extremely high level. This is not saying, here's the tier 2 services we are selecting by any means. This just says, we agree that there's tier 1 and tier 2 services, and we're expecting, we plan on taking advantage of them. I mean, there's really nothing more.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Nope,
there's,
you're-
it seems, I mean, it's a 1-page resolution that doesn't articulate anything of exactly what we're, because obviously we've already signed up for tier 1, or pardon me, tier 2 services this year. We've selected what our tier 2 services are. And when do we do it for next year?
They do typically, well, they've done their fall visits, they'll do spring visits, and we'll have the opportunity to update. Tier 1 is really set.
Yeah,
They
right.
try and do that on the biennium.
Okay,
And then we'll look at a probably March or April spring visit where we'll look at any adjustments we need to make in services at that point in time.
for tier 2,
For
for
tier two.
next year.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this is, so we need to approve, what in the agenda was called the local service plan agreement. This is 1-page thing. So, and again, it's very high level. It's just basically saying we are engaging in the ESD services. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. One absentee. Okay, very good. We have one addition, one ad, which was the facility use. This is the
Yeah,
PYAC.
thank you.
Yeah.
Not as far along as I would hope to be, but, what my request, I'll explain it in a minute, but I'd like the request to the board is to be able to provide me with, the authority to continue negotiation with the Philomath Youth Activities Club for use of one of their facilities, in a facility use agreement, for the old Benton County Schools Credit Union / Delicious Desserts that sits right behind the Philomath Youth Activities Club. The, we've talked with the club, their board has talked about it as well. And we had hoped to have the agreement all done, but, you know, that's life kind of happened. So the key points of the ESD will carry the insurance on the facility, will assume the cost of utilities. We will assume basic maintenance and upkeep and a minimum of 3 months' notice to be provided should either party wish to discontinue the agreement. When we started the conversation about this, and this goes back to the transition program, when we had Kelsey and members of the special advisory committee show up and talk about that facility. The idea is to move our student services program and this year to move our student services program into that space. And out of the high school, and in the fall to be able to look at our special education transition program living there. And so, we've done conversation about cost of facility move and the technology support. I'm looking at Jennifer, the cost of the move, there's really not much we have to do in terms of, from a facilities perspective. There's a wall to paint. And there will be some other,
Furniture.
furniture costs that we need to do, and technology, because we have to make sure that that facility is wired into either the technology shop or Clemens Primary School. And that has come in and to be,
They quoted around $1,500 is the hardware and then installation costs.
Is that wireless?
It's gonna be a wireless bridge is what I
Yeah,
understand,
yeah.
yeah. But there still needs to be some electrical work that has to be done that they can't do.
Yeah, yeah. Probably mounted so it'll
Yeah.
project the signal.
So
But
a
it's
small,
not hardware, it should be a lot more.
yeah, a small cost for that too.
PYC has had this, available. Their desire has been to, level it at some stage of the game in order to build a basketball court, and build more facility for themselves. So we were looking at a decision based on, if we were 18 months at a minimum in that space, what's the cost benefit analysis to be able to do that? And, dependent upon grants for Philomath Youth Activities Club, will determine when they decide to raise that space and, do something different. But it's an opportunity for us to move forward for a period of time before we can look at, what does that mean for us in a bonding space and things like that. So, it had not been brought forward. I would like to, with the board's approval, continue to be able to negotiate that facility use, and move us forward in that way.
My only question, as I see, is pretty bold or broad, basic maintenance and upkeep. If they're planning on level, we don't wanna get in a spot where they say, you guys did this and you need to, you know, we end up with a huge amount of money into a building that they wanna level.
Yeah, all we're talking about is if there's a wall that needs to be painted, or if there's plumbing that needs to be taken care of, and we'll take a look at, as the owner of the facility, we'll take a look at any, you know, if a water heater goes out. How do we share that look and that expense? But we've talked about, just keeping up the grounds area around the outside. And so we've already talked with Joey and the maintenance crew about that. We've already talked to Kelsey about what would be some student responsibility to be able to look at garden space or things like that. To be able to make that happen.
And then,
So it should be just maintenance, not improvements.
Right.
Unless they're improvements that are for our benefit.
and
Right.
our insurance will cover that as well.
The LDL, she said, yeah, LDL. Okay. So we're not approving any use agreement at this point. We're just giving you authorization to continue negotiations. You don't
Right,
have to bring
and-
a use agreement back.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to enter into that as soon as we can so that we can get some people moving. And I just didn't know what the board's level of.
Okay.
Susan, go ahead and, the Philomath Youth Activities Club Board meets next week or the week after.
Okay, so
And, the other thing of note is you'll see on there that we're taking cost of utilities and carrying and insurance. We are not paying a rental fee.
and so maybe that's what I would, based on what you've outlined here, I'm gonna propose a motion. Michelle, you'll be ready. I'm sure one of you people will probably endorse it. That, you know, the board approves Susan to enter into the superintendent to enter into a facility use agreement with the PYAC ancillary facility. Not to exceed the coverage of insurance, utilities and basic maintenance. Period. Anything beyond that would have to come back to the board.
Right.
Is that-
And I will share it anyway.
Yes, of course,
Um,
but if you've got to sign an agreement that suddenly we gotta add a wing or, you know, whatever, replumb the place. We would want you to come back here.
Yeah, we've had both technology and facilities involved from the get-go, because we took a look at what would be a budget. And said if there's a certain amount that we're gonna exceed, then it's not a good cost benefit for us to do it.
So I moved to what Tom said.
Great.
I will second the motion.
You got that well enough, Michelle. Okay. All right, all those in favor? All right,
Aye.
all right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
This is,
That-
Kelsey's got a smile on her face.
Yes, this is, yeah, this is great, that something like this is moving so fast, and, you know, PYC's, we, obviously, the district and PYC have had a deep partnership for a long time, this is another great.
They're being great with us. You know, I had a conversation with Eddie today, their executive director, and said, you know, I'm not as far along as I want to be with the agreement. But are we good to be able to have the conversation? And he said it's out in the open with our board and our people that we are looking to negotiate, so go forth and
Don't flatter
share the
Eddie,
word.
don't flatter Eddie too much, he's got a big enough head,
Okay.
so, yeah. No, they have been outstanding partners over the years, and this again is a great example of that.
Thank you, I appreciate the support.
Okay, and our wrap-up items here. Susan, you've got 3 things for the next meeting. Elementary mathematics instructional material, so this is the adoption of a new round.
They want to bring forward what they would like to
Okay.
purchase.
That's a board requirement that we endorse those. Our audit presenters, and then the KBCS annual report. This is their annual report to us.
Yes,
And then where are we on the KB?
I just got information.
Audit, I didn't send this out.
Oh, yeah, no,
Right,
the audit,
that's
I
it,
just got information from OSBA that they are waiting on a few items from Kings Valley, and then we'll finish.
Okay,
And so I'm
I'll just keep that on our.
working to, thank you, I'm working to be able to make that happen.
Okay, very good.
Are we gonna work on anything?
Yes,
This,
then we will, I might expect, soon I'll discuss, but I would hope we at least start talking about the structure for maybe the, you know, how frequently and what concept we'll review that. So, yeah, I will bring that forward. Thank you.
We'll also need to make sure to change the meeting date for the March meeting.
Yes, I said Michelle will get that, for February.
February,
March stays the same.
February
Yeah,
would be
and
the
then the rest
third
of the year.
Thursday.
So you have
No, I
listed
think-
out,
Yeah, we'll just need to, like,
Just
we
get
had
a list
already
of dates.
changed
Yeah.
all the dates to the third, so if next month we need to say we're changing it back.
well, no, February we've agreed.
No, but for March, is what I,
March,
I'm sorry.
okay,
For March, we've agreed, we're gonna keep this
Second.
schedule, the current schedule.
yes.
Yes.
but next month.
we'll send out
Yes,
a list
correct.
of all the dates.
Yes, yes. Yeah, basically, it's moving to the 3rd Thursday going forward, with the exception of March. We're gonna, yeah, let's put it that way. Okay. Any other topics people wanna put on the agenda for next month?
I'm assuming by next month we'll hear that pool will be done or when they're doing that.
We'll at least have, well, let's see, by the 3rd week of February, there's a strong likelihood that we'll be done.
Yeah, great. Okay. Board thanks. Thank you for my goodies. So, yeah.
I have a big thanks to both Tom and Susan for their hard work. Gathering all of our thoughts together in a cohesive and polished format for us from our last work session. And also thank you for letting me join remotely.
Oh, that's great. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. And Sandy, I know you're listening. I'm terribly sorry you're not feeling well. Thank you for tuning in, but hope you both feel better.
Thank you for not being here.
Yes, let's say that too. Amen.
The meeting just cut out. I don't know if you can hear me, Susan.